From your Park on the Lot site, you have a post that you did in 2015, 6 things your TV spec script needs to stand out. And we'd love to hear that.
Do I remember all 6 of them? I do not.
Okay.
Because it was a year ago, but I can give you some generals.
Your spec script has to be profoundly memorable, what I like to call blazing hot. Good is not good enough.
So the first thing is, it has to be incredibly memorable. You have to choose a concept that is something that people will be talking about the next day. It also has to be really, 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 really good. I just finished reading 50 spec scripts for my CBS program. Just good isn't good enough. There were plenty that were good, but it has to be blazing hot. It has to be exceptional. And one of the things that makes it exceptional is a concept where you're taking a risk. You're just taking a risk. You're going outside of just a typical kind of show, typical kind of television series, and you're really trying to go deeper, deeper on the concept level, deeper with your characters. And I just read a script last night that that didn't make it into the next round. It was well written, but it was a procedural that was just a typical procedural with a well written but typical protagonist, and it was a different sort of environment different workplace than we normally see. And it was fine, but it wasn't exceptional. It didn't get you excited when you read it.
Tell me, what is typical? That's fascinating to me. What about it wasn't Walter White?
Okay, what wasn't Walter White? The character wasn't that interesting. It was a female. It was a young woman who was going against what her family wanted to do this thing in a man's world. We've only seen that 100,000 times. And she had something that she was passionate about, but it didn't reveal enough about her. It wasn't a character. You know, Walter White had layers and layers and layers. This character had a
Number 2, make sure the show you've selected to spec on is going to be on the air for a few years.
Yes.
You don't want it to be too new. You don't want it to be too old.
Right.
You want it just right, as in a show that's the 2nd or 3rd season.
Yes. So. It's important that you don't put all this work and energy into a spec script that you can only use for 30 minutes because a show gets canceled. It shouldn't be so new that we don't know whether or not it's going to come back. It shouldn't be so old that people have read every single possible configuration of that show. I saw, for my CBS project, I saw somebody write a Criminal Minds. That show's been on the air for more than 10 years. Don't do that. I hate to see people who put so much time and energy and effort and blood and sweat and tears into doing a spec and then only being able to use it for 30 minutes because the show went off the air. And so really the sweet spot is a show that's been on the air for 2 seasons. We know it's kind of a hit and going into the 3rd season. Now, there's some exceptions for that. When a show comes out of the gate as a huge hit like Empire, you can pretty much be assured that it's going to be on the air for a while, which it is and will be. But just to be safe, 2nd year, 3rd year. 2nd season, 3rd season. That's what I recommend. In addition to how long it's been on the air, you want to make sure that the numbers are strong. The other reason to wait for the 2nd season is so that people in the business will have had a chance to have seen the show. Sometimes people write shows that are so obscure, that are BBC shows that nobody's watching, that it's hard to appreciate the spec because we don't know the show.
Right. Just to go off topic for a second, Carole, where could someone go to look at the ratings for a show?
There's a couple of places. You can go to tvbythenumbers.com. You can go to, actually, if you just Google it, if you do a search, TV ratings, there will be 4 or 5 websites that will come up that will tell you what the ratings are. You can also just Google the name of the television show and then picked up, renewed, or canceled. And there's a whole website that just deals with renewed or canceled.
Oh, okay, interesting. I did not know that. Number 4, so showrunners and executives need to have actually seen the show. How do you know which ones? Hint, if it's a critically acclaimed or getting good reviews, it's most likely being watched, any show with buzz.
Okay. Any show that has buzz, that's getting good numbers, or even if it's not getting good numbers, but it's getting a lot of critical acclaim, like Jane the Virgin, has not gotten good numbers, but is sort of a critical darling, then you know that executives and showrunners have read it, know the show. You want them, as I said, to know the show so that they can evaluate your material. Here's another sort of inside tip. Don't write a spec for a show that's not very good. There's certain shows that have been on the air a long time, but they don't have depth. They aren't interesting. They're just crowd pleasers. That will not show off your writing ability. You want a show that is textured and layered and interesting and has depth to show your writing ability.
Can you name a few shows
Sure.
that do have texture?
Sure. Well, there was Breaking Bad, which doesn't help anybody now, because if you have a Breaking Bad, I'm sad for you. There is certainly The Americans, but The Americans is going off the air. Mr. Robot is really good and interesting and layered. Masters of Sex. I think Veep is funny as a comedy. Silicon Valley is funny as a comedy. I think that shows like I'm going by the network show. Shameless, although Shameless has been on too long, but it's that kind of a show where there's more to it than just what's on the surface.
Number 5, your script can't be too soft. Make it edgy, edgy, edgy.
Okay. So you want to swing for the fences. You want to take a big risk. You want to do something that is really edgy, that is really sort of on the parameter of every day and is moving into the extraordinary. That is that's pretty vague, I know, but take a risk. Do something that is unexpected. That's what edgy is too. It's unexpected. It goes to a dark place when you don't expect it to go to a dark place. It goes to a funny place when you don't expect it to go to a funny place. It's what you want is to surprise somebody when they're reading the script, where they go, here's the bottom line. Let me read something that I didn't see it coming. That will get you noticed. A strong, memorable concept, and somewhere at least once in your script where, wow, I didn't see that coming. But again, not so, but still keeping within the world of that show and the reality of that show. So again, I think we were talking about Silicon Valley. You're not going to have aliens land. That is risky. That is too risky. Don't go outside of what is the reality of the world. The other thing, and I might not have mentioned it, is if you have a show that's called The Carmichael Show, let's say, which is on NBC, if the star's name is in the title, then you need to make your spec about the star. You aren't going to get very far if you pick a character that is rarely seen to do the whole episode about. As somebody said a long time ago, it's called Roseanne because it's about Roseanne. So that's just a thing to keep in mind. It's interesting to explore in some way the B characters, but you've got to pay attention to your A character.
So if the whole show becomes about Becky and all the things going on in her life and Roseanne's just in the background,
it's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's a big problem. Exactly.
edgy though, I see now that stuff's really pushing the boundaries that
Yes.
didn't used to, especially
Yes.
in 80s television for all the
Yes.
80s kids out there. But when is it still too edgy for the world that we're in now, which it seems like pretty much anything will go these days? But how do you know you've kind of, not even just aliens landing, but I mean just something like,
Yucky.
ooh, that's a little, that's taking it too far.
I think that I read a script where I went, ooh, ugh, because somebody was describing something that was so sexual and weirdly sexual that I went, whoa, no, 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 no. And being sexual is fine to me, you know, I don't have a problem with that. But this went way over the edge. And then it was like anything that makes you go, ew, or ick. If you write something like that and the people that are reading it for you before you send it out go, ooh, then take it out.
Okay.
Because as soon as somebody has that reaction, it's over.
Right. And I think people have different levels.
It's true, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
But so if you get someone else who maybe is more squeamish, because there's some people I could see just go any which way and
Yeah.
they think it's fine. But
Yeah.
so maybe have some
I would show it to a couple of different people with different levels of, as you say, squeamishness, and see what kind of a reaction you get. If all three of them go, Jim, it's just over the edge.
Right.
It's over the top.
make sure it's something you can write the hell out of.
Yes. It has to be a show you love, that you can't wait to write it. People often have agents or managers or friends tell them, this is a show, it's the best show that's on right now, you should write it. You should only write it if you love it, and you can write the hell out of it. You have the voices of the characters in your head. You have a great idea for it. Now that doesn't mean that you should write something that it's in its first year or that's in its 10th year or that is not very well made. But it doesn't have to be what everybody else is writing. Write something that you cannot wait to write, and then write the hell out of it.